Zander Club.
Yes.
One half of the squatters.
Originally, yes.
Welcome to Tidy HQ. It's fantastic to have you. We're in the prestigious Tidy studio. I spoke to Jodie earlier, and she was like a little kid in a sweet shop looking at all the technology. So is this like a geeky environment for you? Do you love this kind of thing?
This is it's a playground for me. I love this. Yeah, absolutely love it. Wonderful
Brilliant
place. And thank you very much for having me.
No, it's always a pleasure to have very talented people here. Now, you've just been signed to Tidy Management. You're no stranger to DJing because obviously you've done the whole squatters thing. So house music is not really something that's new to you. The signing to Tidy Management obviously comes after the squatters, and obviously Satellite Kids remix that you did, Time for House. How does it feel to be signed up by a label that's causing waves now within the house scene with the new fresh and tidy sound?
Well, it's great, really. Things have kind of come full circle in a way for me, because when I first got into going out and got my first set of decks and got into all that, Tidy was like my church. It was my gospel. It was the thing I always wanted to do. And when I was too young to go, I always wanted to go to a Tidy weekend and things. So it's always something that I've loved, is Tidy. So to be asked to do a remix and then be signed to the management now has been incredible, really. And it's great to see that Tidy's got a whole new lease of life. And it's even better to see how many young people are really getting behind the whole the sounds of Untidy and Tidy 2 and Tidy. It's great. Love it.
Now let's talk about the Untidy sound. You signed to Untidy Trax, the Spank the House. Love the track, absolutely love the track. When I heard it a few months ago, it was like, wow. For me, that's a standout track on Untidy.
Thank you very much.
So you're the only artist, I think, apart from Sam and Jodie, that is playing the tougher side of house, because Jodie is playing that tougher side of house as well. Why do you think the Untidy sound has become more popular the second time round? I mean, you'll remember it from the first time, but the second time round it seems to have flared up massively. Radio 1 are playing the tracks, Kiss FM are playing the tracks, whereas before you would struggle to get an Untidy release, even Funky Groove back then. Maybe Jules played it, I don't know, but
yeah, I think it's kind of a natural progression from tech house, really. Tech house has been such a big thing, and it's kind of the energetic tech house is kind of becoming the next EDM over in the States and things like that. And, over in the UK and Europe, a lot of the tech house artists now don't want to be associated with that sound, and now making the more minimal stuff, the minimal tech house, which is a lot more stripped back. It's a lot rawer. So I think this has just opened up a huge gap for, Untidy to come through and keep that energy in the tech house sound, but just toughen it up a bit. Mm-hmm. And this is something I've always liked. I've always liked music that's a bit pacier or a bit edgier, or has just got that little bit more something about it. And I think that's what the Untidy brand is going to bring through. And, and especially that's what I'm trying to bring through in my music as well.
So for those watching who may not necessarily have heard of Zander Club, tell us a bit about yourself, your background. Obviously, I've said you're in the Squatters. That's where I know you from.
So originally I was part of the Squatters, and then from there I was part of another duo called Minddeck. I've been an engineer and a writer for lots of people over the years, making other music and make many other hits that are out on very other good labels. And then I'm also releasing stuff under my own name, Alex Powell, which has just been a bit of a kind of a lockdown thing, really, sort of licking my wounds, feeling a bit crap, stuck at home, and been writing stuff under that. And then the Zander Club side of it's kind of the other side of the coin. It's the more fun, energetic, stuff that I really love doing. So I've done lots of stuff in the last 15 years in the dance music industry, and I feel like I'm only just getting started now.
So you've not really had the opportunity then to play out as Zander as a DJ then?
No. So it's a Zander Club, actually. It was funny. I started working on some music and sent it to Sam, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's wicked. Like we want to do this." And I was like, "Oh, I was kind of toying with starting Zander Club, because I make a lot of more sort of 80s kind of stuff as well, and I was going to use Zander Club as that kind of thing, but then it kind of just fell into place. I was making this music, which Untidy like, and a few other bits that I've sent over and I've not got out yet, and it kind of just felt the name fit the vibe, so I kind of put that name together. And the funniest thing about it is, I mean, when I was trying to think of a name, like, I actually was going to call myself Zander Pepe, but then with all the stuff going on with people having to rename themselves, like the Blessed Madonna and all this, and a few people were like, "Oh, well, you're not Spanish, so Pepe."
Does it
like,
matter?
well, no, but I was like, "Oh, I don't want to upset anyone," so I was trying to frantically think of a name, and obviously I'm called Alex and Alexander, so the Zander part came from there.
Yeah.
And I was trying to think of something to replace Pepe with, because I actually did another Zander Club release, which came out on Sense Trax. That was my first release. And my good friend Simon, who runs the label, was like, well, mate, he's like, it needs to get sent to distribution, it needs to get released. Like, I need you to change your name now. And I was on the phone, stood on the steps outside my house looking. And I drive a really old Astra, which is just a banger. It gets me around. I'm not into cars.
Yeah.
And it's an Astra Club. And I just saw the word club on the side of the car, and I was like, Zander Club? It was like, yeah, that's wicked, that works. And then it stuck. So it's quite funny how the name came together, really.
How different would you say the music you make as Alex Powell is? As Alex Powell is to what you produce as Zander Club?
It's completely different. It's on more of an emotional tip. It's very musical. Like I'm trained to play the piano to I got to grade 8.
Wow. When
I was younger, and then stopped doing it because I thought, oh well, this is geeky, I shouldn't be doing it, and it's the biggest regret of my life. I should never have stopped doing that. So it's a kind of a culmination of everything that I've always wanted to do and I've never had a chance to do it, and it's quite progressive, dark. There's breakbeat stuff in there. There's a lot of sort of trancey melodies and things. It's completely different to what I do as Zander Club, but it's kind of just a different side of me.
How would you describe what you produce then as Zander Club? Because it is so easy and lazy just to call it house music.
It's definitely not house. It's not house. Like, the tough house thing fits. But the thing I wanted to do with the Zander Club is I wanted to keep that kind of rolling techno vibe in the bass lines, like the rolling techno, the techie drums in there, and then use a lot of disco samples which are filtered, the looped, the rolling, get some of the stabs from the old 90s and the hard house stuff and everything in there,
which I absolutely love at the minute.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, who doesn't? I never get bored of them sounds.
No.
But I think fusing the more rolling bass line with the disco and then the hard house thing is something that I've not really seen anyone doing right now, and I just thought, this is something I love. I can just fuse it all together and see what happens, and it's working. So that's the vibe.
What kind of setup then are you using to make the music?
So it's quite funny, this, actually, and anyone listening to this, really, really take note of this, because I used to have a studio exactly like this, full of gear. Years ago, when we were doing the squat stuff, we just had synthesizer after synthesizer, and it was like, oh, I need to buy this synth because so-and-so used that on that sound, and I had all this gear, and I'm now making more music and better music than I've ever made with a laptop, a good sound card, and a pair of speakers, and a MIDI keyboard. That is it. And I write in Ableton, I write in Logic, I use both. And just knowing your tools well will do you so much good than wasting thousands of pounds on bits of gear that you don't need, because half the time you think someone's used something, they haven't, so you've got it wrong. And if you've heard, oh yeah, so-and-so said so-and-so uses this, I've heard it so many times, and then I've actually met the guy and he's like, no, it was just a sample.
Yeah.
And things like that. And even when, Lee Haslam used to manage us as the squatters, and Lee was a hero of mine when I was younger, and it was amazing. And when I spoke to Lee, he was like, oh yeah, everything, all the Tidy 2 stuff, most of it was made in FL Studio. And I was like, what? I bought a virus and a Nord lead thinking that was all the sounds, and I never got it right.
No.
So literally, I'm writing the best music I've ever written. Just literally, I've got my MacBook, I've got a sound card, I've got some speakers, I've got a well-treated room so I can hear things properly, and that's it. And I'm more excited than ever been about making music, having so little stuff.
So, where do you feel most comfortable making music? Do you think you're in your comfort zone now with what you're producing as Zander Club?
I think absolutely now. I think the one good thing that lockdown's done for me is it's given me the time to actually just sort of sit and kind of, just get all the crap out of my head and make a few, just make stuff.
Have a word with yourself.
Yeah, just have a word with yourself in the studio, because, every time, in the last 15 years I've made music, it's been for a purpose. I've either been doing it for someone else, or I've been doing it to be a certain style, and I've kind of got all that's out the way. So now I'm just going, right, today I'm going to write a Zander track, I'm going to write this, or I'm going to just write something, and then I can go, oh well, actually that could be a Zander track, or it could be an Alex Powell track, or whatever. And I think right now is definitely I think I'm at the best moment ever for writing music, because I just don't have anything holding me back mentally. It's just sit and write, and I can just get ideas out, no problem at all now. I love it.
Music has no boundaries. How far are you willing to push your music?
Oh, I'll go over the edge. Ready to go over the edge. Absolutely.
So, apart from Untidy, then I know you mentioned one other label. What other labels have you been signed to? Because I know you've done more than just the Alex Powell music and the Zander music. So
over the years, I've had releases out on Toolroom, Champion Records, New State, I've had stuff on Universal, Warner, and Sony.
Wow, so
I've, yeah,
labels.
I've done stuff that's been, and remixed a lot of stuff that's been on, you know, all the majors and a lot of the good underground labels like Simmer, which is a real good house label now. Back in the early days, we were on Simmer Black. Yeah, there's so many, like, but it's great to just kind of be lily padding from different sounds and different labels rather than, you know, just having one goal to work with one label.
So Spank the House, okay, I want to talk about this in a bit more detail. It's one of my favourite tracks out at the minute. You know, Untidy is a phenomenal label. I'm a big fan of the label. What's the inspiration behind that track?
So Spank the House was really weird. It was one of these tracks that actually it came together in about 3 hours. Like literally, you know, after chatting with Sam about, you know, doing more with Untidy and obviously talking about the management thing and stuff, I was just full of beans and I was like, right, I'm going to write a couple of tracks. So I just literally sat down that night, opened a beer and cracked on, and I had the bare bones of it together in literally 3 hours.
Wow.
And then the next day I listened to it, and I actually wrote the B-side the next day. I sent it to Sammy. He was like, yeah, tidy this up, this is great. Pardon the pun. So, yeah, this is great. And then I literally sat the next day and wrote the B-side to it as well, which none of you have heard yet at this moment in time.
No.
So I will play it later on. Good.
I'm excited to hear it, most definitely. So I take it there's going to be plenty more of this sound coming from you then?
Absolutely. At the moment, I've got about six almost finished tracks, which are ready to send out as demos. I'm working on a collab at the moment with Sam Townend. I'm working on a collab with Ali Wilson, who's also one of the Tidy artists. Yeah. And there's a couple of other big names in the house scene and tech house scene that I'm looking at doing some collabs with, which I'm hopefully going to be bringing over to the Untidy brand.
Amazing. So what's in the pipeline for you then, Alex? You know, what is going to be happening?
Well, at the moment, I've got my first couple of dates from the Tidy guys, so it's going to be great to be playing a few of the Tidy shows. I've got some, you know, a few other gigs coming in. Unfortunately, there's not a lot we can say about them at the moment with the dates, but it's great because it's going to be great to be back out playing again and doing that. I'm going to be in the studio a lot, writing a lot more music. And yeah, just as things are now opening back up after lockdown, I guess it's a case of getting used to getting back to normal and actually getting outside of the studio because I've got so used to staying in it now.
How does it feel to be a true ambassador for the Untidy sound?
It's an absolute pleasure to be part of something that I idolised so much when I was younger. You know, if it wasn't really for the Tidy sound and the events and a lot of the artists who are my friends now, you know, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. And a lot of the stuff I've done in my career, you know, I do have to thank a lot of the artists who I work with now with Tidy, who I've worked together on other projects. And, you know, to actually now be part of the team, you know, flying the flag, it's amazing. So I'm really, really grateful for it. And I'm really looking forward to see what happens in the next year or two.
I think a lot of the stuff you made as a Squatters, which was called Fidget House, was basically, for me, because I used to love the Fidget House stuff, was more of a toned down version of Hard House. It had the elements of Hard House, didn't it? But it was just a lot more slower and a lot more groovier. Yeah,
I think where the interesting thing came with the whole Fidget sound is a lot of the people who started producing it were all at the same stage as me, where we'd never made music before and we were all getting into music production, and we kind of saw this new sound which we all liked and we could all dive into. And the thing where Fidget House was really good is it was so experimental. Like, you listen back to it all now, it's technically made so badly as a lot of it, but very creatively well.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the thing they say, you can always know too much. And like, I went through years where, you know, I'm a mix and mastering engineer as well. Like, once you know how to do all that, you lose all your creativity because you're like, no, this has to sound right. That's to this, that's to that. You become
a perfectionist, and that gets in the way.
Yeah, and then you spend a day just trying to get your drums to sound right, and they sound like shite when you're finished, you know. But I've got past that now. I'm back to you can separate the creative thing. But I think the thing which I think is good about Fidget House is where you can relate to it as Hard House is the early Hard House stuff was the same. It was all experimental. A lot of people just getting into making music, you know, doing things. And that's where the great ideas came from, which became iconic records. So that's where, although there's not so many iconic Fidget records, that's where I can see the similarities between the early Hard House and Fidget House.
Brilliant. Now, thank you very much for your time.
Hey, pleasure to have me.
What I'm going to do, though, Lee has got quite a few contacts in Hungary, so I'm going to prepare you, okay?
Okay.
You don't know this, but my parents were Hungarian, so I'm fluent in Hungarian. Look at my voice going. I've done that many interviews today.
I've only done one and I'm losing mine.
So I'm going to teach you some valuable Hungarian, okay, which you can use when you get off the plane at Budapest Airport and you get picked up, okay? So in the beginning, there was Jack. Very famous line.
Absolutely,
okay?
yeah.
The Hungarian I'm going to teach you is Jack's house is untidy. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So Jack's house is now untidy. Sorry, Jack's house is now untidy. So the phrase is Jack háza most rendatlan.
Jack háza most rendatlan.
Brilliant. That will do me. That look. Zander Club speaking Hungarian, Budapest. Please book him.
I didn't tell you I've got a Hungarian girlfriend.
What's the name?
I'm only joking. I don't know.
There you go, you see. I could have spoken for hours with her.
No,
but no.
I couldn't go down that far.
Alex, thank you very much for your time. It's been great talking to you. Good luck with everything with the Zander Club. I can't wait to hear more music. And I'm looking forward to hearing the B-side track.
It's going to be on later on. Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.